law is X, Y, and Z in your zoning laws, and you've got a board of lay people who are citizens of your community that make determinations about whether or not a zoning variance is going to be or not going to be granted based on the complicated criteria that exist for determining whether or not a variance, whether or not an individual is entitled to a variance. The board in that situation listens to the individuals, and there's no question about it that the educators are a large part of that in terms of giving information to the board to help them make an informed decision. And I just will also indicate that to you that in terms of the liability of board members and individuals, fortunately, our state recognizes the fact that citizens who serve on boards and act in good faith under their obligations as board members are immune from liability and are protected from liability for exercising their responsibilities as board members.
In both of the policies that you read to us, they both state that it is in the hands of the superintendent to make the decision and the recommendation, and if it needs to go before the board's approval, then it will. I guess I'm still concerned as to why the board is making that decision versus Dr. Littlefield. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, the only thing I would indicate to you just very quickly is that policy JCB, which is the assignment of high school students, which I think is the one you're talking about, indicates that that parents would like their children to attend a public high school. Additionally, written requests must detail the reasons for the hardship exists. The superintendent would meet with the parents and guardian to review the request and make a recommendation to the school board, no question about it. After the school board reviews the request and renders a final decision, the superintendent will notify the parents and guardian in writing. So it's the board's decision under your policy JCB to make a determination of whether, as Mr. Pearl indicates correctly, whether or not, number one, what it meant by educational hardship, and number two, whether or not what it meant by educational hardship was meant.
And this is the new policy that was adopted in November, that you're speaking of?
That is correct. That's the November 1, 2011 policy.
Okay, but I'm speaking of the state policy regarding the change of venue. Not the manifest educational hardship, the second one that the state ruling, the second one that you read when we opened forum.
The state policy under manifest educational hardship is also a school board decision.
Okay, not the manifest educational hardship, the second one that you read, the JCA.
The JCA on the best interest of the child standard is a superintendent's decision, and it's not appealable. And as I indicated to you, that's not a right, it's a opportunity for superintendents.
Right, but it's very different from educational hardship and manifest educational hardship.
Absolutely.
I just want that to be perfectly clear that you're talking apples and oranges and two different things.
No doubt about it.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Julie Dubas. And I'm not sure if this is going to come out as a comment or a question. I haven't thought everything through yet. But it occurs to me, and has occurred to me for the last couple months as I've been coming to school board meetings, that school board members and possibly our lawyers too don't know full well what's going on in the educational system. As a teacher of 20, I don't know, lots of years, I teach English, and I need to explain that when I was a student and I was given an assignment to write a paper, I don't know how that teacher graded. For all I know, they may have taken the papers at the top of the stairs and dropped them, and the ones that made it all the way down to the bottom maybe got an A, and the ones at the top failed. I don't know. It didn't seem like a science to me, but I do know that since I was in college, we talked about rubrics. A rubric, if you don't know, is something that explains what an A is, what a B is, what a C plus, what a C minus would look like. There are holistic rubrics, and there are another type of rubric. But regardless, our students and our parents expect that we give rubrics when we give a writing assignment, any kind of writing assignment. I tell you that because your parents and your students expect that you have a rubric for manifest educational hardship or for educational hardship. From what I've seen in the last couple months, I don't see that, and I implore you to please sit down and work it out. What is it? It can't be just, I know it when I see it. I know an A when I see it. How would my students respond in that sort of classroom? How could we possibly get an A in this class if we don't know what you expect? It's not the way we do things in the educational system anymore. Maybe it was the way things happened 30 years ago, but it's not the way it happens now. We have rubrics so that things are not subjective, but they are more objective, so that kids and their parents can understand how they get from point A, not knowing something, to point B, knowing everything. As the parent of a 14-year-old, I think I have a good understanding of that. So I guess this needs to come out then as a question of the board. Will you please, each of you, answer that question? Will you be able to sit down and explain in a rubric form what meets the criteria that you've established?
Yeah, sure.
I can tell you that the policy committee, I was not on the policy committee, but I can tell you that the policy committee and I'm going to back up a minute. I know Attorney Graham mentioned adoption of JCB was 11-1, but I did have some, it was, at least the information that I had, it was originally adopted in 12.3.2, revised 6.3.8, and then there was an additional first reading revision on 9.6.11, and then ultimate approval of revisions on 6.22.11. So I didn't want anyone to think that 6.1.11 was the first adoption of JCB. But I can tell you that during the revision process, and the revision process began because of, I'll say, legal advice from the school district attorney that we needed to look at certain items. And certain items were the fact that we have a contract with the city of Manchester that states that, and obviously this isn't verbatim, but that all students, all Hooksett students are going to attend high school in the city of Manchester, and that requests to attend other schools will be a case-by-case basis, and that our current format, if you will, for approval was well, I don't want to put words in the attorney's mouth, but I'll say not in the best interest of the district. So the policy committee was charged with looking at it and coming back with recommendations. And I can tell you, because we discussed it, and I know I'm on the record several times saying it, that ED 320 was a guiding document that we used. Should we have referenced it in policy JCB? In hindsight, I guess we should have. And later on tonight after the forum, I'm going to suggest that we, as a board, have a meeting very soon, obviously to discuss the forum, and discussion of the forum will obviously include discussion of policies. So I know that would be a recommendation on my part, and to reference that. But I can tell you that it was part of it, and so in my opinion, my belief is that we did have guiding document and for revisions to policy JCB. It was not just any random thoughts on our part.
Excuse me, Dana, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that.
Because I think the question has been begged a couple of times in the sense that will the board be willing to look at the policy again and further clarify its intent or how it's intended to work, so that there is greater understanding of what it's based on and why decisions are made the way they are. I think that's what I'm hearing, is that there's not enough understanding of what the policy is, what it's based on, and then how there's understanding of any particular, decision. So, and I know you can't speak for the board, so I'm not asking you to speak for the board, but I just want to be clear, that's what I think I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my estimation is that, from what I've heard, is that, that policy doesn't have any clear indication of how we determined the hardship. And again, I've been on record a number of times stating that the policy committee utilized ED 320. I believe clarifying the policy would be either referencing and including that definition in JCB. And again, that's something that the board is going to have to take up, so I'm only giving you my opinion.
Yes, Chair?
Is this,
Is it on?
Thank you. Concerning that question, and I had already received this, I had already read it. I had concerns myself with the input that we got back. I definitely think we do need to reconsider or look over the policy again. However, it doesn't change how I viewed my intentions were when we were moving forward with changing the policy. So I just would want that to be recognized. I do believe that it needed to be changed and beefed up, so to speak. That's still my truth, but reflective of what the hearings officer said, I do think we need more work on it. And absolutely, I think I would recommend that we go back and do some more work on it. But again, I do also want you to know that my intention was that we change this and use ED 320 and the manifest educational hardship. And that would be my intentions if we do go back to reviewing this policy. Okay. And as far as the rubric, anything that could be helpful to us, I personally would consider. I don't know much about them.
Yes.
Well, I think the question wasn't really what was used to come up with the policy by the board and what kind of standards or what kind of ED 320 or whatever was made to make the policy. Well, I don't pretend to be able to read the mind of that questionnaire, but I think it was what do we give out to the parents. It's not a rubric of how we developed the policy or the last school board developed the policy, but how do we present it to the parents, a type of rubric or a type of more clear definition of how that policy would be enforced.
Okay. Ms. Tricia?
I had not read the hearing officer report. I was having computer issues and couldn't open the document, so thank you very much, Mrs. Lumpy. But I think Mrs. Jupas brings us an excellent suggestion that we provide parents with the rubrics, and when this goes back to the policy, when the board decides if this is going back to the policy committee or if we are reviewing the policy, that is